What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Retro Reacts. I am your host, Jay Retro. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Friday night. It's 10:50, a little bit early for the program today. If you're locked in with us, we appreciate it here. This is your nightcap. This is where we can talk a little bit of everything in the sports world, not just the same old topics. So make sure you check in about 5 days a week. I'm trying to take Tuesdays and Thursdays off so I can enjoy a little bit of sleep. Um, But, listen, it is what it is. If there's big breaking news, we're definitely going to talk about it right here on the program. Yes, I have my own show with my guy, Zach Blobner, every Monday through Friday from noon to 3, but still, it's not enough. We got plenty to get into here on the program, starting with a Friday night SmackDown recap, the season premiere of Friday night SmackDown, the season debut of WWE Friday Night SmackDown on the USA Network. Wow, just plenty to get into with that. We'll wait, because we got plenty to talk about here. Also, we're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins, and I was going to have this conversation last night. Um, I was dialing everything up. I was going to light the podcast up and start talking about the Dolphins, and then Tua Tagovailoa got hurt. And I just didn't think it was appropriate at the time to start talking about what was wrong with the Miami Dolphins. I literally threw my laptop down like, I'm not doing this shit right now. Not happening. Uh, we'll wait for tomorrow. So we're going to talk about it today, and I'm going to tell you why the Miami Dolphins are in big trouble. And I had this notion before Tua went down with injury. So yeah, we'll talk about that, as well as Aaron Judge breaking his homerless drought in dramatic fashion and what I'm seeing from the New York Yankees right now. And then finally, UFC 309 has a co-main event. It's Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. Chandler will no longer wait for Conor McGregor, and I got three words for Michael Chandler: good for you. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns there wherever you're watching from. The best way to comment is to head on over to YouTube, like, and subscribe so we can get it here in the StreamYard chat. And I'll definitely put your comment up on the screen, and we'll talk about it. Whatever you want to talk about, even if it's not one of the four main topics of the show today. Again, feel free to put it there and like and subscribe. Let's get to WWE Friday Night SmackDown, the full recap of the season debut on the WWE on the USA Network. For a while, it's been on Fox, and now to the USA Network. We know that Raw is going to eventually be going to Netflix, but really good to see a strong first episode here on the USA Network, and there was some overrun. So that's not something that they were able to do on Fox because you had to get to the local news. So very smart for the WWE to be able to utilize that. I'm going to save the bloodline stuff for the end. So that bookend of the show, the start and the beginning, we'll get to that here momentarily. First match outside of that, Michin and Piper Niven. Michin looked strong here. And it was a quick match, quick 1, 2, 3 after a German suplex off the second rope of Piper Niven. Really great feat of strength there. And she hits Eat Defeat for the win. Here comes Chelsea Green in the ring. They attack Michin. She gets attacked with a trash can again. Unpretty her on the trash can after she just got beat up by Nia Jax. What's the deal with trash cans and Michin? A lot of great celebrities in the crowd, a lot of great Hall of Famers and current and former wrestlers in the crowd to really make it feel like a big night. Great to see Rob Van Dam, guys like William Regal, current superstars, guys like Sheamus and Damian Priest and Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther, Booker T and Charmel. It was really, really cool. I know I forgot a couple, but I love that. I love when WWE really shines a big spotlight on these events. It's supposed to feel different, and it certainly did tonight when they highlighted some of these people in the crowd. Next up, A-Town Down Under taking on Kevin Owens and a mystery partner, and it was really cool to see that the WWE did something a little bit different when it came to the mystery partner for Kevin Owens. And down the ring comes this guy, Ricky, who did not look like an average WWE superstar with his teal and pink trunks. Uh, he had he had the fur coat on the front, the fur coat on the back, with the chest hair and the back hair. Yeah, but listen, the people were like, once he got in the ring and they got his name, fans were about to get behind him, and then a great subtle storytelling job from the WWE here is one of the helpers on the outside let Kevin Owens know that his partner, who he said recently wasn't there or he missed a flight, he wasn't there on time, he is in the building and he's ready to go. Kevin Owens hits Ricky with the stunner. Moments later, here comes Randy Orton's music. He comes down, does his poses, and what a phenomenal fight! What a phenomenal match between Kevin Owens and Randy Orton against A Town Down Under. Really love the chemistry with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And there was a couple of things about this match that just shows you why Kevin Owens is one of the best in the business. And it feels like I talk about him a lot here on Retro Reacts. And if that's the case, it just shows that he's been doing a phenomenal job. He's been crushing it, absolutely crushing it. And one of the best hot tags you're ever going to see. Hot tag after hot tag. He wasn't able to get to Randy Orton for the tag to get him in the ring. He goes out of the ring, runs around the ring, jumps and slides in, then tags Randy Orton. That's the kind of intelligence, the wrestling IQ that Kevin Owens has that not every wrestler has. It's not always about the look. It's not always about the moves. It's about the psychology. It's about how he moves around the ring. And there's just not many better than KO. He's firing on all cylinders right now. They did the duo hanging DDTs, and then to end the match, duo and dual RKOs. It wasn't even a stunner from KO. It was a RKO with Randy Orton, and they get the 1, 2, 3. Just a phenomenal match. And who knows, man? Maybe those guys see a tag team title run, but I think it's only a matter of time before Randy Orton turns on whether it's KO or Cody Rhodes, because it seems like that is the next matchup for Cody when he's done with the bloodline. Next up, Nia Jax in the ring. She's talking, and here comes Bayley. Here comes Tiffany Stratton. Here comes Naomi. And then they book a tag team match for next week where Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton will take on Bayley and Naomi. Whoever gets the pin in that match will challenge Nia Jax for the women's championship at Bad Blood. However, whoever gets pinned is banished from SmackDown. And I love this little nuance here because you got to have stakes, right? You hear this a lot when it comes to Eric Bischoff. I listen to him a lot with 83 Weeks with him and Conrad Thompson. Stakes, right? There's got to be a reason why wrestlers are battling it out. And for this, you love to see that, okay, on one hand, it's like, all right, these two ladies are vying for a championship match. But on the other hand, they don't want to get pinned and get banished from SmackDown either. So there's a lot of intricate storylines. And of course, you have Tiffany Stratton in there with the women's Money in the Bank briefcase as well. So there's just so many different layers. And I love that. You don't always have to have big time physicality. And I know we did with Naomi with, she hits Tiffany Stratton there with her finishing move to kind of like shut things down at the end. Um, but I like that. I like that kind of stuff where it's just minimal contact, tell the story in the ring, and then go from there. Next up, one of my favorite feuds, favorite rivalries in the WWE right now, Carmelo Hayes and Andrade. They haven't really announced what this best of is. Is it a best of 7? Is it a best of 9? It might just be a best of 5 now because they said Hayes 2, Andrade 2. Andrade hits the message off of the top rope, and here comes LA Knight saying that he is next up for the US championship. But what a fantastic series of matches between these two guys. They don't miss, man. Mello don't miss. That is right. But really, really good stuff from those guys. And that's why I push back on people that are always talking about the best in-ring talent and the best in-ring performances come from AEW. Like, watch Andrade and Mello do their thing. I mean, Andrade had some good matches in AEW, but nowhere near the level that he was able to perform in the WWE. That was before his tenure in AEW and after. So shout out to Andrade and Carmelo Hayes for doing their thing, but let's stop besmirching the in-ring performances. Like I'm watching AEW after SmackDown was off, and I'm watching, Orange Cassidy, and I'm watching Briscoe against the Dark Order, and I'm like, what the hell is this? What am I watching? I know it's Rampage, but it's like you're telling me that in-ring product is better than what we're watching on SmackDown? Like, what are we talking about here? Yes, there's some fantastic wrestlers. Don't get me wrong. Will Ospreay, amazing. Okada, amazing. Okay, Brian Danielson, Paige, Swerve. Like, I get it. Young Bucks. Like, there's a lot of good wrestlers there. But are we watching the same thing here? You can't tell me that when you watch the two tag team matches tonight with A Town Down Under against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, and then you watch that match with Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa in a steel cage, and then you watch the match between Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, that there's that much of a discernible difference between the two brands. So stop with the whole thing of like, oh, the in-ring performers for AEW are miles ahead of WWE. That's blasphemy. That's just flat out wrong. They're both great. The difference is WWE tells better stories. The ring psychology is a level above. Doesn't mean that AEW doesn't do good things, but the floor is a lot higher for WWE. I think the ceilings are very similar. Okay, because you do tell there are some great stories that are told in AEW, but I think on a consistent level, WWE meets that every single time. There's nothing shallow. Sometimes you turn on AEW events and like the match I just watched on Rampage, not good enough. That wasn't great. I look at the match at AEW All In between Mercedes Moné and Dr. Britt Baker. Those are two of the best women in the world. Wasn't a great match. When's the last time you turned on a WWE event or a PLE and you said, wow, that wasn't a great match? If you, I've watched probably, God, I've watched at least the last 10, right? They, they fire on all cylinders. There wasn't a bad match on the SummerSlam card. Mm-mm, not a chance. Wasn't a bad match. Bash in Berlin. Just, those are the last two that I think of. Even the match tonight, you want to look at a match between Michin and Piper Niven. There was some great stuff there, storytelling with Chelsea on the outside. How about the move from Piper Niven jumping off of the ring apron, doing a flip there, a somersault onto Michin. Michin winning the match, showing some incredible strength with the German suplex off the top rope, and then hitting her with eat the feet to win. Short match, yeah. Not every single match has to be 15 minutes long. Get in there, physicality, tell the story, get out. Nothing wrong with that. It's a 2-hour show. They told a story. That's what it's all about. It's about storytelling. And there's no story that has been told better in all of professional wrestling in the last couple of years than this story with the bloodline. And that's what SmackDown started off the show with tonight. A steel cage match between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. Wow. I thought it could have went a little bit longer, but they just right off the rip with the physicality. Cody picked up some blood, the incredible cross body off of the top of the cage. And I was wondering if he was going to kind of do like the moonsault that he did in AEW. And I think he broke his foot after that. Glad he didn't do that. A couple of teases of each, Cody leaving the cage. But he ends up hitting Crossroads for the second time, picking up the pinfall. And then after the match, here comes the rest of the bloodline. Here comes Tangaloa. Here comes Tamatanga. Here comes Jacob Fatu. They jump in the ring. They're beating up Cody. Fatu climbs the cage. It looks like he's going to dive off the top. Roman Reigns music hits. Fatu climbs out of the cage. Reigns gets in, closes the door. He starts beating he starts beating the crap out of everybody. So Reigns calls for the spear on Solo Sikoa after they mix it up a lot. Fatu pulls Sikoa out of the ring. Reigns is like, come here, come in the ring. Fatu gets in the cage, closes the door, and then Solo opens the door. You knew that was coming. You knew those guys weren't touching. So Solo opens the door, pulls Fatu out, and then Tonga, Aloha, and Tamatanga, they attack Roman Reigns. Here's Cody Rhodes. They make the save, and then there's tension. Of course, they're teasing tension. And we hear that Solo Sikoa, and this is in a backstage segment with GM Nick Aldis, who I think he's been phenomenal. Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu challenge Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes to a tag team match at Bad Blood. They said they've already signed the contract. And then Cody comes in as Aldis is speaking and saying, I'm done with the bloodline. I don't want any part of it. Roman Reigns, he says, I'm going to give you my response to this whole thing in the ring. So they end the night with Roman in the ring with Nick Aldis. And he starts saying, I don't need a contract. This is my ring. This is my WWE. And who comes out next but Cody Rhodes? And Cody Rhodes says, "Yeah, it was. All this was yours." It's, but not anymore. WrestleMania, everything changed. So Cody's talking smack, and it looks like they're about to throw down, and here comes Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And they're not alone. Here comes Tangaloa, Tamatanga, and these two guys, the baby faces, hold them off. And as Solo and Jacob Fatu are outside of the ring, Roman picks up the contract, signs it. Cody walks over, puts his hand out, just like Roman does when he asks for the microphone. Cody Rhodes signs it. There's your tag team match at Bad Blood. So there's a couple of things that really stood out to me. One, the way that Roman is able to kind of slow everything down. He slows the whole game down. He put his hand out to Nick Aldis, looking for the microphone. He hands him the contract. He kind of looks at him, puts his hand out again, finally puts the microphone in his hand. So that's why when Cody put his hand out at the end for the contract, like those are the little things. You want to talk about storytelling? That is why WWE is a notch above. Those little things like that. And then also, when you look at what WWE has been able to do with telling the story without using their words, you see it with Paul Heyman better than anybody when he just stands there, in the background. You've seen it for the last couple of years with him and Roman Reigns. Now you see it with Jacob Fatu, and you see right at the end as Solo is yelling at Roman and Cody, telling Roman he doesn't like you. He doesn't like you. What do you see? You see Jacob Fatu right here, hands together, and he's fuming, not saying a word, but telling a story. It's just what a great way to start off the USA Network's Friday Night Smackdown. The season premiere. It was awesome. It was really, really good stuff. All right, make sure you follow me on social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like and subscribe. Check me out on TikTok as well. Always breaking down some of these videos after the fact and putting them on all social media platforms. Next up, I want to talk about the Miami Dolphins. So again, I wanted to have this conversation last night, and I was going to hop on Retro Reacts last night on a rare Thursday night show, and I was getting all my information ready. I was getting ready to roll, and then Tua Tagovailoa running for a first down collides with Damar Hamlin, ironic out of all people, and he gets concussed like instantly. You see him on the ground. Oh man, it was just tough to watch. Immediately, Dolphins players go down to a knee. Bills players go down to a knee, and it all the air came out of the balloon for the rest of the game. Like nobody even cared about the rest of the game. The Bills were so far ahead. Skylar Thompson came in. Everybody's thoughts and prayers are with Tua Tagovailoa. So out of respect for him, um, I didn't want to talk about this last night. I just what, that's going to be the main story. Even though we spoke about the game a little bit today on the show with on Jay and Zach, we wanted to show some respect to Tua Tagovailoa. This is a guy that's dealt with concussions before, and I'm not going to sit here and tell him that he should do this or should do that. This is a decision that should be left up to him and his family, right? Everybody wants to hop in and say, "Oh, you shouldn't do this. You should think about this." If you're a family member of his, I'm sorry, man. Like, you're not them. You're not him. You're not in his family. So you can give your opinion on what you would do in that situation. Okay, you would hang it up, but it's a lot easier said than done when that's not you, right? Because you figure, hey, if you're Tua, I'm still a young guy. I've been playing football my whole life. My family loves this game. I probably should have done better of protecting myself in a situation like that. You know, it's easy. Again, it's easier said than done. It's easy to say never play again. Okay. Because it's not you. Because then you have to live the rest of your life in your mid 20s and not do the one thing that, you've done your entire life and you love doing. And people, I get the argument. I get the quality of life after and spending time with your family. I understand that. But if it was that easy, then Tua would have retired after the first concussion or the second one. So all I'm saying is before, it's one thing to have an opinion, but you got to leave it up to him. If he clears concussion protocol and he can get back out there, I know some people are going to say you got to save him for from himself, but it's his life, man. You gotta, it's just you gotta let him make that decision. You gotta. But I don't want to talk so much about Tua Tagovailoa because for me, it's not. I gave that my time, but I don't want to. This is not the reason why the Miami Dolphins are in big trouble. The Miami Dolphins were in big trouble even before the Tua Tagovailoa, even before the injury to Tua Tagovailoa on Thursday night against the Buffalo Bills. And when you watch that game, it is another clear example that they will not make it to the promised land playing football like that. They will not win a Super Bowl playing like that. You see it every single year with this team, with Mike McDaniel at the helm, with Tua, with guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Listen, their freaking offense is amazing. That offense can put up points. You remember the game last year against Denver. Incredible. But it's not just about scoring points. You have to win the battles. You have to win the battle in the trenches. And I see too many times in these big games where Mike McDaniel tries to do all of these gadgety plays and running to the outside. And if these defenses have some quick players and they all fly to the football, Miami has trouble moving the ball down the field. I look at this team and I just they're not made for it. The Miami Dolphins, even before the injury, are in big trouble. They're not made for big boy football. They don't like to run the ball between the tackles. They have a bunch of guys that are very fast, but every single time they have an opportunity to show everybody that they've learned from their past mistakes, that they've learned from some of the failures that they've had, they come up short continuously, whether it's at home, like you saw Thursday night, or on the road. If the weather's not perfect, if the offense isn't running like a fine tuned, well oiled machine, chances are they're not going to win. Everything has to be perfect for Miami, for them to be able to be productive. That's the difference between them and a team like Buffalo. That's the difference between them and a team like even Baltimore or obviously Kansas City. Is that when things break down, Lamar can make a play. When things break down, Josh Allen can make a play. When things break down, we know Patrick Mahomes can make a play. If Tua Tagovailoa and this Miami Dolphins offense isn't on time, they're screwed. They are screwed. And one of the big stats watching that game last night was in 2023, the Miami Dolphins were 28th in the National Football League on fourth down. 28th in the league in fourth down conversions. So when the other team knows that you're going to run the football and usually fourth downs are, 4th and 5 or less. But Miami, as good as that offense is and as good of a play caller that Mike McDaniel is, they continuously come up short when they need just a few yards. Is that mentality? Is it play calling? What else goes into it? It's just not good enough. They don't play big boy football. The best teams over the years get the yards when they need them. You can talk about this Kansas City Chiefs offense all you want, the high flying, going back to the beginning with Tyreek Hill. Of course, they have Travis Kelce, they have all these good receivers, and they have Patrick Mahomes. But if you look at this team, especially the last couple of years, when they need a yard, Isaiah Pacheco gets him a yard, right? If they need a couple yards, they'll run a short pass to Travis Kelce. They get it done. They play big boy football when they need to. Look back at the Tom Brady years, right? When they needed a yard, Tom Brady, QB sneak, they got it done. They handed the football off to one of a million running backs. You couldn't roster any of those guys on your fantasy team, but they got the yards when they needed them. Hell, look at the Philadelphia Phillies. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of years ago. They went to the Super Bowl and fell short against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, But everybody knew that the tush push was coming. And pretty much every single time they got it, right? Short yardage situations. In the trenches, they were strong. You knew what was coming, you couldn't stop it. So even though Miami lost to it, and I think it's a horrible thing, right? Personally, it's a horrible thing for him as a man. It's a horrible thing for their team because of him being the starting quarterback. But even before he went down, I mean, they were in big trouble. Too many runs to the outside, not enough bully ball between the tackles, getting manhandled at the line of scrimmage. Buffalo went into that game depleted, people counting them out, people saying, oh, wow, some of their best players aren't even in the lineup. Pretty much the whole receiving corps changed outside of Shakir. And they just absolutely lambasted the Miami Dolphins. Miami continuously comes up short. They can't play big boy football. And I don't know if it's ever going to change. They can't. This is the way they are. This is how their offense operates. But you look at some of the other big offenses in the league, they get the yards when they need to. Miami, they're just not built like that. They're not built for success in the long term. They're going to beat they're going to beat average teams, they're going to beat mediocre teams, and they're probably going to beat the absolute crap out of them. But when they play the top tier teams, the top defenses, then they play the teams with the great linebackers that can go sideline to sideline, and you can't outspeed them, Miami's in big trouble. And that's why I don't think with this group, they're never going to make it to the top of the mountain. They just won't make it there. They just won't make it to the top of the mountain. All right, next up here on Retro Reacts, I want to talk about Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees. And I've been waiting all year for somebody in the American League to wow me. Give me something. Obviously, we know how bad the Tampa Bay Rays have been this year. Listen, they're fighting their ass off. They won 2 games in a row against the Cleveland Guardians. Tip your hat to the Rays, man. They're 2 games under 500. They just got swept by the Philadelphia Phillies. Now they win 2 games in Cleveland against the AL Central leading Guardians. Like, what the hell, man? That's the Rays for you, man. They're super impressive. And this is another reason why you don't want to listen to people when they're talking about run differential like that matters. Their run differential is worse than the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah, who cares? They've been ahead of the Blue Jays for months now. The Rays, when you look at their year, 2 games under 500, the Guardians 20 games over 500. Shout out to Tampa Bay. But I think when I look at who impresses me the most and who I think has the best chance to win the pennant in the American League, the Yankees are a team that seems to be finding their feet at the right time. And after the win tonight, 86-62, 148 games in the books, 14 more. And it's not always the best team that makes it to the World Series or wins the World Series. It's the hottest team. And I feel like the Yankees, with the additions that they've made and also the change in the bullpen, they took Clay Holmes out of there. Luke Weaver got the last 6 outs tonight. You got to make those subtle changes if you're going to win in October. You bring up Jason Dominguez. He ironically didn't play tonight. You need the superstars, but you need experience. You need guys with some flavor. You need some guys with that endless energy. Jazz Chisholm, he's like a kid in a candy store. He's just like grinning ear to ear every single day. Even if he said the other night, like, we're not even in October yet. He loves this. You have Anthony Rizzo finally back from injury. He's got the experience of winning the World Series. We know how good Juan Soto is. Anthony Volpe, a guy with a lot of speed, Gold Glover at shortstop. Gleyber Torres is playing better after just such an incredibly up and down year. Austin Wells is going to finish in the top 3 for AL Rookie of the Year. And now they have 6 healthy starters. They got Marcus Stroman now going to the pen. But the one guy that is going to lead this team to the AL pennant, they need him to, is Aaron Judge. And when you watch the game tonight, the Red Sox, they go up 4-0, and then the 7th inning happens. Right-hander Justin Slayton walks to Anthony Volpe, Alex Verdugo, then Gleyber Torres comes up with an RBI single, so it's 4-1. And then Red Sox manager Alex Cora brings in the lefty Cam Boozer to go against Juan Soto, and you're thinking, all right, you get lefty on lefty, you got to go right at him. You don't want to load the bases for Aaron Judge. He walks him on 4 pitches, like not even close to a strike for any of them. And here comes Aaron Judge. And Judge, in the middle of a 16-game homerless drought, 60 at bats, 75 plate appearances, last home run on August 25. Think about it. Aaron Judge has not hit a home run tonight, but in the month of September, sitting and standing on 51 home runs. And earlier on in the night, he had a single, and you're like, uh-oh, he might be finding his way. And this game was on Apple, so it was cool to be able to watch that broadcast. And shout out to our good friend Trisha Whitaker, doing a wonderful job there. But Boozer falls behind, and here comes Aaron Judge with a grand slam over the fence in left field. The Yankees take a 5-4 lead, and that ends up being the final score. Aaron Judge has it looks like he's going to win the MVP again. But when teams are going to make a long run in the postseason, you need to have that we are going to fight to the last out mentality. And I was wondering if the Yankees had that type of mindset. Saw that a lot from them in the late 90s, but not as much in the last couple of years. But now that you have all of those guys back from injury, you have a really, really solid bench with multiple good players that can play a ton of positions. You have a good backup catcher in Trevino. It seems like they're kind of finding their groove at the right time. And when you have arguably the two best hitters in the American League in Soto and Judge, like, what do you do? How do you pitch around these guys? And you have the ace with Garrett Cole. You have a lefty in Rodon. You know, Luis Hill's coming out. Clark Schmidt did pretty well until the kind of the wheels fell off a little bit for him. And then Nestor Cortez, who is funky as hell, who can pitch out of the rotation, in the rotation or out of the bullpen. That's a team I'm keeping an eye on. What is going to happen with New York? Aaron Boone, if he doesn't get it done this year, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go and they look to go in a different direction. The seat will get hot if they don't go to the World Series, but I feel like the abilities that they have to pitch and to hit, and they're a lot more athletic than they've been in the last couple of years. I think it might be the AL pennant. I think it might be the Yankees to lose this year. All right, we're going to finish it off tonight with some UFC talk. And, I try to keep it positive here on the show. But I am just so sick of hearing about Conor McGregor, this and that. He's going to fight Michael Chandler. He's not going to fight Michael Chandler. He goes on social media and he's always talking this shit about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, I don't care. Like, get in the ring, get in the cage, get in the octagon, whatever. Just get in there and fight. That's what you're known for. I was there at, was it UFC 208 or whatever the hell it was? God, man, it's gone. It's like 309 now. But when Conor was in there against Eddie Alvarez, 2 belts, like, it was great. Good stuff. But he's lost a ton since then, losing 2 times to Michael Chandler, losing to Habib. I really wanted to see this matchup with Michael Chandler, especially after they coached against each other in the Ultimate Fighter last year. They were supposed to fight, didn't happen, pulled out with a toe injury, and it just seemed like Michael Chandler was going to wait. He's been in so many wars. This was like his big money fight. Waiting. Well, he's not going to wait any longer. He is going to fight at UFC 309 against Charles Oliveira November 16th at Madison Square Garden, 5-round co-main event. And the main event hasn't been announced yet, but he's not going to wait anymore. Go in there, and he is taking a risk. He's taking a risk going against Stu Bronx, former lightweight champion. They fought before, and Chandler had him in the first round, but Charles came back with the TKO victory. But Chandler hasn't fought since losing to Dustin Poirier back in 2022. He's been waiting for this big money fight, and I know he wants to get back in there. I know he wants to stay fresh, but if he loses this fight, it's like it takes some of the steam out of him against McGregor. But it's got to happen, right? Who's going to fight Conor McGregor next? He's got to, that's the thing. Is like we're continuously waiting. And I really hope the UFC in the next year or so keeps finding ways to build new stars. Because When's the last time we've seen John Jones fight? When's the last time we've seen Conor McGregor fight? Those are the two biggest stars in the game. Nate Diaz, when's the like guys like that? We want to see these big stars, and you're gonna see one tomorrow night. Sugar Sean O'Malley against Merab Dvalishvili. Um, but I think he's got some holes to his game. We'll see if Merab wins because Sugar Sean is arguably one of the biggest stars, that one of the biggest active fighters right now in the UFC. We just saw Israel Adesanya lose to Dricus Du Plessis. Need some new stars, man, because I think the UFC has gotten into a little bit of a lull. And who would have thought that the UFC is, looks like getting some rub from the WWE. UFC, the fight tomorrow night in the Sphere, it is going to be great. Cannot wait for that. And of course, we'll recap it all tomorrow night right here on Retro Reacts. All right, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Share this, please, on your social media platforms. Like and subscribe on YouTube. You don't know how much that affects everything, and it really helps the algorithm too. So I appreciate everybody out there for checking me out tonight. So everybody enjoy, and have a great rest of your Friday night. Get some sleep, and we'll be back tomorrow night right here on Retro Reacts. Peace out.